Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going deep on some notes and transcripts you've sent us.
Mhm.
Looks like you've been wrestling with some big questions, like attention in the digital age, technology's impact on us, and even the meaning of work itself. It's exciting stuff.
It is.
Yeah. And to make things even more interesting, your main source is this mysterious Spanish document.
Oh.
Yeah, called documento.txt.
Ah.
I know, right? It's giving me serious secret decoder ring vibes.
Intriguing. Sounds like we're in for a really thought-provoking deep dive.
Oh, absolutely. And right off the bat, this documento.txt grabs your attention. It says, and I'm paraphrasing here, never stay, never be bored. We have no right to be bored. Talk about a call to action.
It's a powerful statement, especially today when distractions are everywhere. It's like a challenge,
Yeah,
to engage with life rather than just passively consume it.
exactly. And the source goes on to offer some really practical strategies
Yeah.
for cultivating that active engagement.
Yeah.
One that really jumped out at me was journaling. Just the simple act of journaling. The author suggests using a basic notebook, like the readily available, Dina Shinko notebook, to jot down what's going through your head, like at the start of each day.
Journaling can be surprisingly effective. It's like decluttering your mind, right? You get all those thoughts and anxieties out on paper, and then you can focus on what matters.
Yeah, totally. The source also really emphasizes the importance of a digital detox. They talk about finding what they call refuges, spaces where you can unplug
Right.
for like 30 to 45 minutes, maybe even a full hour, and just be present.
This really resonates with the growing awareness that we need these intentional breaks from technology, whether it's spending time in nature or pursuing a hobby, or even just taking a walk without your phone. Disconnecting helps us recharge, reconnect with ourselves.
I love that. And the author even argues that these breaks allow our thoughts to kind of change and begin to be of better quality. They compare it to clearing out static, so you can tune into a better signal.
That's a great analogy.
It is.
And speaking of clearing out static, the author also highlights the benefits of physical activity, for improving attention. They even share a charming anecdote about riding their bike, nicknamed Macaria, to clear their head and boost creativity.
So we've got journaling, digital detox, and exercise.
Yeah.
Are you sensing a theme here? This source is all about taking proactive steps to reclaim our attention in a world that's constantly vying for it.
Absolutely. It's about being intentional with our time and energy, rather than letting ourselves be pulled in a million different directions.
Now buckle up, because this is where it gets really interesting. The source introduces this striking analogy of screens as mirrors. And they talk about the emergence of a sociedad espejísmica, which translates to mirage-like society.
Interesting. So this analogy challenges us to consider how much time we spend staring at our own digital reflections. Are we becoming so focused on our online personas that we lose sight of the real world?
They even use the term narcissismo-social, meaning social narcissism, to describe this tendency to crave validation and attention online. It's like we're constantly performing for an invisible audience.
Makes you wonder if we're truly connecting with others online or just seeking approval and reinforcement of our own self-image.
Right. And it's a slippery slope, because that constant comparison and striving for likes can be incredibly draining and ultimately unfulfilling. It's like chasing a mirage, always just out of reach.
The source prompts us to ask ourselves, are we using technology to connect with the world? Or are we allowing it to create a barrier between us and what truly matters?
That's a question we all need to be asking ourselves. And speaking of questions, this next concept really piqued my curiosity. The source introduces this intriguing term, ticopraxia.
Yes, it's a neologism, combining tic for technology with praxis for practical action. Essentially refers to the skill of using technology effectively and ethically.
It's not just about swiping and tapping. It's about mastering the tools of the digital age to enhance our lives and make a positive impact.
The author even suggests that developing ticopraxia can actually boost brain development. They argue that using technology strategically rather than passively can stimulate our minds and improve cognitive function. It's not just about consuming information. It's about using it to create, solve problems, and learn.
That's fascinating. And they emphasize the ethical dimension as well. It's about using our digital skills for good, not harm.
It's about recognizing that technology, like any tool, can be used for both constructive and destructive purposes. It's up to us to wield that power responsibly.
Okay, I'm loving how this document seamlessly weaves together philosophy, psychology, and practical advice. Now, get this, it even delves into the nature of work itself, comparing profession with trabajo, job.
The author's background as a medical professional really shines through here. They define a true profession as involving not just practical skills, but also a deep understanding of theory and a commitment to continuous learning.
Yeah.
They describe it as a constant evolution and refinement of one's craft.
It's about more than just punching the clock. It's about bringing a sense of purpose and mastery to what you do, regardless of your job title.
And this ties directly into the author's insights on avoiding burnout. They suggest that those who view their work solely as trabajo, a means to an end, are more susceptible to feeling overwhelmed and exhausted.
Whereas those who approach their work with a sense of profession, who find meaning and purpose in what they do, are more likely to feel energized and fulfilled even in challenging circumstances.
This reminds me of the anecdote they share about telling their patients, "I want you to never need me again." It's about empowering people to take control of their well-being rather than becoming dependent.
It's such a powerful example of finding purpose in your work. Even if the ultimate goal is to work yourself out of a job, it's about making a positive impact and leaving things better than you found them.
And that leads us to another key theme, the nature of stress itself. The source distinguishes between good and bad stress, using a very memorable example.
Oh yeah, the bear encounter. I love this. They say if encountering a bear motivates you to climb a tree and escape, that's positive stress. It helps you adapt and survive. But if you freeze in fear and, well, you get the picture, that's the negative kind.
It's not about avoiding stress altogether, but about understanding how to harness it productively.
So how do we apply this to the everyday stresses of modern life?
The author argues that a lot of the stress we experience today is the negative kind, often stemming from things like constant comparison, the pressure to achieve, and the fear of missing out. It's about recognizing those triggers and developing healthier coping mechanisms.
It's a reminder that we have a choice in how we respond to stress. We can let it overwhelm us, or we can use it as fuel to become more resilient and resourceful.
And this brings us to the author's simple yet profound recipe for a healthy brain: oxygen, glucose, and information.
It's so basic yet so insightful. It highlights the interconnectedness of our physical and mental well-being.
It underscores the importance of exercise, nutrition, and continuous learning for maintaining a sharp mind and a healthy body. They even quote the ancient Greek philosopher Solon, who said, "Envejecer aprendiendo una cosa cada día," aging by learning one thing each day.
I love that. A reminder that learning is a lifelong journey, not just something we do in school. It's about cultivating curiosity and staying open to new experiences and ideas throughout our lives.
And I think that's a powerful antidote to the feeling of burnout or stagnation.
Okay, there's so much to unpack here, but let's dive a bit deeper into this idea of information as fuel for the brain.
It speaks to the remarkable plasticity of the human brain, its ability to adapt, grow, and form new connections throughout our lives. And in a world that's constantly changing, that ability to learn is more crucial than ever.
So it's not just about stuffing our heads with random facts. It's about seeking out information that challenges our assumptions, broadens our perspectives, and helps us make sense of the world around us.
It's about being discerning about the information we consume, filtering out the noise, and focusing on what truly nourishes our minds.
Absolutely. And that brings us to this age-old question of ambition versus contentment. Can we be driven and successful while also feeling content and fulfilled? Or are we doomed to always want more?
The author makes a crucial distinction here between what we might call healthy ambition, the drive to learn, grow, and reach our full potential, and the trap of social comparison, which can lead to a perpetual sense of inadequacy.
They talk about the importance of stopping to smell the roses. How do we balance striving for more with appreciating what we already have?
It's about cultivating gratitude for the present moment, while still holding aspirations for the future.
They even share a poignant anecdote about a journalist who expressed regret for not having more time to see the full impact of artificial intelligence. It's a reminder to appreciate the journey, not just focus on the destination.
It's a call to live intentionally, to pursue our goals with passion, but also savor the experiences along the way.
Wow. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this incredible source material.
There's so much wisdom packed into this document. It's a real testament to the power of thoughtful reflection and the importance of continually seeking knowledge and growth.
And I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our exploration of these important themes. But for now, let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll delve into some specific strategies from the source for navigating the digital age without losing your mind. Stay with us.
Welcome back. ready to uncover more gems from this documento.txt.
Absolutely. I'm eager to dig into the practical strategies the source outlines, for navigating the digital age without losing our sanity. I feel like we could all use a little guidance in that department.
You're telling me, remember that powerful quote from earlier? Never stay, never be bored, we have no right to be bored. That's actually the foundation for everything else the author suggests. It's a call to actively engage with life, rather than letting it passively wash over us.
It's about being present, both mentally and physically, and resisting the urge to constantly jump to the next thing.
Exactly. And that leads us to the first practical strategy, cultivating attention, or what we might call focused attention. It's about being fully immersed in the present moment, not letting our minds get hijacked by distractions.
The source offers several techniques for strengthening this attention muscle. We already touched on journaling. That simple act of writing down your thoughts and feelings, it's like hitting the reset button on your mind, clearing out the mental clutter so you can focus on what matters.
They even suggest starting small, just jotting down a few bullet points each morning, like what are you grateful for? What are you looking forward to? What are your top priorities for the day? It's a way to set an intention and prime your mind for focus.
Then there's this concept they call hyperprosexia, which I'll admit sounded a bit intimidating at first.
It does sound a bit complex, but it's really not. Think of it as the ability to maintain focus. Like laser-like focus on a specific task, while filtering out distractions. It's different from that kind of jittery hyperfocus you might get from caffeine. This is a deep, calm, and sustainable state of concentration.
So it's like being so absorbed in your work that you lose track of time. But everything you produce is top-notch because you're fully present and engaged.
Exactly. The source suggests that we can cultivate hyperprosexia through activities that demand focused attention, like solving puzzles or playing strategic games, anything that requires you to really engage your mind and block out distractions.
And let's not forget the importance of physical activity. Remember the author's bike, Macaria? That's a great example of how movement can clear our heads and get our creative juices flowing.
It's not just good for our bodies, it's essential for our minds as well.
So we've got journaling, focused activities, and exercise. Any other practical tips from our mysterious Spanish document?
One that I found particularly insightful is the idea of seeking out refuges, spaces where we can disconnect from the digital world and simply be.
They emphasize that these refuges can take many forms. It could be a walk in nature, or a quiet corner in your home, a favorite coffee shop maybe. Any place where you can escape the constant stimulation of the digital world.
The key is to create intentional space for quiet reflection and deep thinking. Even if it's just for a few minutes each day, it's about giving your mind a chance to breathe and recharge.
This is where the author's concept of elegancia comes in, right?
Yes, but not elegance in the traditional sense of fashion or style. They define it as the art of knowing how to choose well. It's about making conscious choices that align with our values, support our well-being, and help us achieve our goals.
In a world of endless choices, it's easy to get swept up in the current and make decisions that aren't truly serving us.
That's where elegance comes in. It's about pausing, reflecting, and asking ourselves, does this align with my values? Does this bring me joy? Does this contribute to my overall well-being?
It's about being mindful and intentional, rather than just going through the motions or getting caught up in the frenzy of consumerism.
The author even encourages us to seek out diverse perspectives, talk to people we trust, and really consider the potential benefits and drawbacks before we buy into something, whether it's a product, an idea, or a way of life.
It's about cultivating a healthy skepticism and not just accepting everything at face value. And you know what? That takes effort.
It absolutely does. But it's worth it, because when we learn to choose well, we create a life that is more fulfilling, more meaningful, and ultimately more elegant.
Okay, so we're being intentional with our time, seeking out refuges, and cultivating that elegancia, choosing wisely. Now, how does this all connect back to technology?
It's about using technology thoughtfully and intentionally, rather than letting it control us. This brings us back to that fascinating concept of ticopraxia, the skillful and ethical use of technology.
It's about becoming masters of the digital tools, not slaves to them. It's about harnessing technology to enhance our lives, not diminish them.
The author even suggests that skilled tech use can actually enhance brain development. They argue that when we use technology strategically, it can stimulate new neural connections, improve our cognitive function, and help us learn more effectively.
That's such a refreshing perspective. It challenges the notion that technology is inherently bad for us. or that it inevitably leads to addiction and distraction.
It's about reframing our relationship with technology. Instead of viewing it as something to be feared or avoided, we can embrace it as a tool for growth, creativity, and connection.
And that brings us to the ethical dimension of techopraxia, right? It's not just about using technology effectively, it's about using it responsibly.
Exactly. The author reminds us that technology, like any powerful tool, can be used for good or for ill. They use the analogy of a knife. You can use it to prepare a delicious meal or to inflict harm. The choice is ultimately ours.
So how do we ensure that we're using technology for good? How do we navigate the ethical complexities of the digital age?
It starts with awareness, recognizing the potential for both benefit and harm that technology holds. It's about asking ourselves, how am I using this tool? Is it contributing to something positive, or am I using it in a way that's harmful to myself or others?
It's about being mindful of our digital footprint and considering the impact our actions have on others.
And it's about using technology to create, to connect, to build, to solve problems, to make a positive difference in the world.
It's inspiring to think about the incredible potential of technology when it's used with intention and purpose.
Absolutely. I think the key takeaway from this section is this. Technology is a powerful tool, but it's ultimately up to us to decide how we wield that power. We can choose to be passive consumers or active creators. We can choose to let technology control us, or we can choose to use it to shape a better future.
That sense of agency, that ability to choose, is incredibly empowering, isn't it? It reminds us that we're not helpless in the face of technological change.
We have the power to shape the digital landscape, to use it for good, and to create a more humane and meaningful future.
And speaking of meaning, I think it's time we transition to the author's thoughts on work, purpose, and the very real threat of burnout, especially in today's always-on work culture.
A topic that's more relevant now than ever, so let's dive into that. Where were we?
Right. This whole work-life balance thing, which, let's be honest, can feel pretty elusive these days.
It really can, especially when you consider the author's take on profession versus trabajo, which we touched on earlier. Remember, they see a true profession as more than just the tasks. It's also about deep understanding of the theory and a commitment to continuous learning and improvement.
Right. It's about finding that deeper meaning and purpose in your work, even if it's not always glamorous or exciting.
Exactly. And the author, drawing on their background as a medical professional, describes our own profession as having a clear mission to guide people toward optimal health and well-being.
And I love that anecdote they share. You know, the one where they tell their patients, I want you to never need me again. It just perfectly illustrates that focus on empowerment rather than dependence.
It does. It speaks to a deeper purpose. Beyond simply treating symptoms, it's about equipping people, giving them the knowledge and the skills to take control of their health.
So how do we apply this to our own lives? Especially those of us who might not be in professions like healthcare. How do we find that sense of purpose and meaning in our everyday work?
It's a good question. I think it's about identifying that element of service, of making a positive impact in whatever we do. Maybe it's helping a customer find just the right solution, or creating a product that brings people joy, or even just being a supportive and reliable colleague.
Right. It's about aligning your work with your values,
Yeah.
even in small ways, and recognizing the ripple effect of your efforts.
Yeah, and that sense of purpose can be a powerful buffer against burnout. The author argues that those who see their work only as trabajo, a means to an end, are more prone to feeling overwhelmed and disillusioned.
Whereas those who cultivate a sense of profession, who find meaning and purpose in what they do, are more likely to feel energized and resilient, even when things get tough.
And it's important to remember that meaning and purpose don't have to come only from our jobs. They can also come from hobbies, relationships, volunteer work, anything that brings us a sense of fulfillment and connection.
I like that. The source encourages us to explore, different facets of ourselves, reminding us that we're not defined solely by our job title.
Right. They even use this charming analogy of being a tornillero, a factory worker by day, and a contemplador benub, a cloud watcher by night. It's like a reminder that we're complex individuals with diverse interests and passions.
Which leads us perfectly into the final theme. From our mysterious document, the very human struggle between ambition and contentment. It's something we all wrestle with, right? That desire to achieve, strive for more, while also wanting to feel satisfied with what we have.
It's a constant balancing act. The author frames this as a distinction between healthy ambition, that drive to learn, grow, and make a positive impact, and the trap of social comparison, which often leads to feelings of inadequacy and discontentment.
So how do we navigate this tension? How do we embrace our ambition without falling into that comparison trap and ending up on that never-ending treadmill of wanting more?
Well, the author suggests that it starts with defining success, but defining it on our own terms, not based on external standards or the achievements of others.
Right. It's about recognizing that our journey is unique and that comparing ourselves to others is a surefire way to be unhappy.
Exactly. And it's about remembering to stop and smell the roses, as they say, to appreciate the present moment and savor the small joys and accomplishments along the way, rather than always focusing on what we haven't yet achieved.
And I love how they bring this home with that poignant anecdote about the journalist who, when asked about artificial intelligence, expressed regret for not having more time to witness its full impact.
It is a powerful reminder of the finite nature of time and the importance of making the most of each day. It's a call to live with intention, to pursue our goals with passion, but also to savor the journey and appreciate the people and experiences that enrich our lives.
Wow, so much to reflect on. After this deep dive, what key takeaways would you say our listeners should keep in mind?
I think the overarching message is one of empowerment. We have more agency than we often realize. We can choose how we engage with technology, how we approach our work, and how we define success and fulfillment in our lives.
It's about cultivating awareness, intentionality, and a healthy dose of skepticism as we navigate this increasingly complex world.
It is, and it's about recognizing that technology is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. The choice ultimately comes down to us.
And it's about remembering that true fulfillment. It doesn't come from external validation or achievement, but from within. From aligning our actions with our values, from finding purpose in what we do, and from appreciating the richness of our experiences, both big and small.
I think that's well said. It's about finding that sweet spot between striving and savoring, pushing ourselves to grow, while also taking time to appreciate the journey.
And on that note, that's it for today's deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration of attention, technology, and the search for meaning in the digital age. Until next time, keep diving deep.